Last week, we talked about reviewing how your insurance portfolio is structured, gathering everything in one place and simply seeing what you actually have. Once you start doing that, something interesting happens. You begin to notice the assumptions you made behind your purchase decisions. Most high earners like you aren't underinsured. In fact, many are fairly well covered, but a good number are quietly overpaying and they don't even realize it. And it's usually not because they were reckless, it's because the assumptions sounded reasonable at that time and they sounded responsible. And when something sounds responsible, you don't naturally question it. So let's walk through 5 insurance myths I see all the time among high income professionals. And as we go through them, just ask yourself, is this how I've been thinking about it? Myth number 1: investment linked insurance is fine. This one causes the most long term drag in my experience. If only more people bought term and invested the difference, more families would have the life and health coverage they actually need at a much more budget friendly price. Now, let me explain why this one is sticky. When someone earns well, they don't want unnecessary complexity. So, when they're presented with something that promises protection and conveniently has investing in one package, it sounds efficient. It sounds elegant. It feels like you're being financially sophisticated. And because it feels sophisticated, it rarely gets analyzed and broken apart. But when I sit down with clients and we actually review the numbers, most people are shocked. They've never really separated the premium they pay into its components. They don't know how much is truly buying coverage. They have no idea how much is going to charges. Some aren't even aware that there are charges in the first place. They just assume the plan is fine. And I'm not saying investment linked plans are automatically wrong, okay? That's not the point. The real question is whether they're the most efficient way to solve the risk you're trying to solve, or if they were simply the most commonly presented option to you. By the way, if you want to review your own insurance setup while we go through these myths, you can comment audit and we'll share our insider's insurance audit playbook with you. Myth number 2: if I can't afford it, it's fine. Well, this one sounds mature. I earn well. The premiums don't hurt. And that may be true. But high income doesn't eliminate inefficiency. It just makes inefficiency more expensive. You see, if you're slightly inefficient at a lower income, the long term impact may not be as dramatic. But if you're inefficient at a higher income, that same inefficiency scales with you. And over time, that difference becomes significant. Because every peso directed inefficiently is a peso that's not compounding elsewhere. Affordability answers the question, can I pay for this? But structure answers the question, is this the best use of my capital? Those are not the same question. And remember what we said last week, less is more. Expensive coverage doesn't necessarily mean you're getting the most bang for the buck. So be careful. Myth number 3: if it were wrong, someone would tell me. Oh, this one's very human, right? I have an advisor, and if something was off, they would have said something. I understand that instinct. But not every option gets presented equally. I mean, let's face it, sometimes conversations you have with a salesperson stay within a certain favorite range of solutions. And if you never step back and compare alternatives clearly, you won't even know what wasn't discussed. That doesn't mean someone misled you intentionally. It just means you may not have seen the full comparison side by side. That's why review matters, not accusation, review. Because when you look at everything together, new questions often surface. Questions that never came up when each policy was purchased separately. Myth number 4: I'll fix it later. This one feels harmless. Oh, I'll optimize my insurance when things start to slow down and I'll revisit it next year when I'm less busy. And I get it. Insurance rarely feels urgent, especially when nothing appears broken. But here's what tends to happen: none of the individual purchases themselves feel irrational when you make them. Each one seems to make sense at that stage of life. But over time, as income increases and new policies get added, the overall structure becomes heavier. It's not that any single decision was necessarily wrong. It's that the structure was never fully rationalized. And the longer you leave it, the more intimidating it feels to untangle. Not impossible to fix, just more tedious and complicated. Myth number 5: more policies equals safer. This one feels responsible. I have multiple policies. I'm covered enough. But more policies don't automatically mean stronger protection. Sometimes it just means more moving parts. You see, accumulating policies can feel like you're making progress, but accumulation without a clear design can create both overlap and gaps at the same time. I mean, you can have five policies and still struggle to clearly explain what each one solves, how they work together, or whether they duplicate each other. You must understand that safety doesn't come from quantity, it comes from intentional design. Hey, by the way, if one or two of these myths sound familiar, you can comment audit and we'll share a guide, the Insider's Insurance Audit Playbook, so you can review your setup calmly and clearly. At the end of the day, none of these myths mean you made a foolish decision. They usually mean the environment you were operating in wasn't designed for full clarity and transparency. Because most high earners like you aren't careless. They're responsible. They're trying to protect their families. They're doing what they believe is prudent. But when you haven't seen the alternatives clearly side by side, it's hard to know what's truly optimal. And when you're not fully sure what optimal even looks like, you tend to hesitate to buy insurance on the one hand or buy indiscriminately on the other. Sometimes accumulation becomes a substitute for clarity, not because you lack intelligence, but because you simply lack full visibility. In the next video, we'll unpack why that lack of visibility creates hesitation, even for smart professionals such as yourself. Because often the issue isn't discipline, it's that you don't know what you don't know. For now, just determine which myth you might be operating under. Clarity first, everything will build from there. I'll see you in the next episode.